I wrote a book. Before I get into what the book is actually about, I wanted to take you back a little bit. I wanted to explain the inspiration behind the book and really what started it all. As far as I could tell, it all goes back to one book that I read and a specific passage in that book that planted the seed of one day attempting to write my very own book. Vegetarians and their Hezbollah-like splinter faction, the vegans, are a persistent irritant to any chef worth a damn. To me, life without veal stock, pork fat, sausage, organ meat, demi-glaze, or even stinky cheese is not a life worth living. Vegetarians are the enemy of everything that is good and decent in the human spirit, an affront to all that I stand for, the pure enjoyment of food. The body, these waterheads imagine, is a temple that should not be polluted by animal protein. It's healthier, they insist, though every vegetarian waiter I work with is brought down by any rumor of a cult. I first read Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential maybe 11 years ago, 12 years ago. I remember at the time when I first read it, that passage in particular, how insane of a writer I thought he was. First time I've seen somebody write with such an irreverent style, just not giving a shit about anything he was saying and just speaking from the heart. And what struck me the most about it was just how conversational it all was. It was as though you were just talking to him. And to me, I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, wow, if I ever write a book, if I ever have the skill, the interest, the desire to write a book, I would make it conversational. I'd want it to be as though I'm talking to somebody just like this. And that moment is what planted the seed of me eventually one day wanting to even attempt to write a book, was because of Kitchen Confidential. The other thing that was remarkable about that book was that it was about cooking, the world of being a chef, a world that I knew nothing about. They took a subject matter that wasn't well known by the masses. I mean, cooking, chef life, nobody was talking about that back then. He took something that meant very little to most, brought you into that world, and made you appreciate it for what it was, and all of its intricacies, all of its unique aspects of chef life. And I thought that was incredible, to deconstruct a world in such a way that the average person could understand it. And doing it in such a way that was just hilarious. There is a big difference between inspiration and action. I was inspired by the book, but there was no way in hell I was going to be writing a book anytime soon. I didn't have anything interesting to write about. I didn't have the skills or the desire to even attempt it. So if you fast forward maybe 8 or 9 years, I was invited to an event in New York City, and it was at a steakhouse. There were maybe 20, 25 people there, and it was in the dining room area. There was a long table that was, I mean, like, this thing was huge. It was like Last Supper huge. I just remember walking into this place feeling like, holy shit, like the energy, you know, walking in, everybody was giving each other hugs, high fives, they were drinking, everybody was checking out each other's watches, and I'm like, what is this? What the hell is this world? And one person in particular that, said he was going to be at the event, and he showed up at the event, and, he said, "Hey, Rich, pleasure to meet you. My name is Sam." I remember him handing me a box, and it was a set of cufflinks, and it was the same set of cufflinks that I had commented on one of his posts maybe a month or two before. And he just remembered that I had commented on how nice they looked. And, he basically said, "Rich, I thought, I don't wear these anymore, and you seem into them, so I thought you'd give them a good home." And I remember thinking, what? This is crazy. I started, really participating in this what felt like an underground world to me. Dinner in New York City was really no different. At the end of the event, the dinner table was cleared, and everybody started throwing their watches on the table, which I thought was bizarre. And they started taking photographs, and it was just this massive pile of these beautiful watches, and it was just, apparently that was part of their closing ceremonies for these types of events. And again, all new to me. That was kind of one of the first early events that I had attended where I got some exposure to what the community was all about, which I thought was just otherworldly. Just like Anthony Bourdain's book, I thought that this world itself was similar to that one, where not many people know that this world exists. There's not that many people that are that open about their passion of watches and watch collecting, similar to Bourdain's book about eating. I mean, since then, everybody and their mother is writing a book on cooking, and travel shows kind of really glorify that. But then at the time, that was a pretty new concept. But from that night was kind of the starting point, picking up the fire necessary to actually embark upon writing a book. I had no interest in writing anything up to that point, but as the years rolled by and I was part of this community and was more and more exposed to the people that are part of it, I remember thinking, this is interesting. This is interesting to me, and I gotta believe people that aren't part of this world would find it equally interesting. That's how it started. That initial inspiration from Bourdain's book was the trigger, but it was the watch community and going to that initial event, and then the subsequent events. That was the fuel, or the fire that actually got me going. So now you know the why.